Welcome back to Introduction to Programming. This is video 9 in our series, and my name is John Duane. Today we will cover another fundamental building block in your programming knowledge: strings. Anytime you have to deal with text values, you'll be dealing with strings, their functions, and their expressions. First, we will cover the string data type and how it impacts memory management. Then we'll get to the really good stuff, the string functions, and there are a lot of them. And that's good because there are lots of different situations you will find yourself in as a programmer when you have to handle strings. Then we'll finish up with an example that demonstrates the more popular string functions. I've promised to tell you from time to time how other languages deal with our current topic. I'm not going to do that with strings. That's because there are more differences than similarities. The good news is that Visual Basic 6.0 and Visual Basic for Applications, our focus in this video series, make string handling very, very easy in the most common situations. The other languages, particularly the C family and the .NET languages, require a more low-level approach where strings are considered an array of characters. It's complicated, useful but complicated. But here we'll stick to VB6 and VBA. I'll explain this table in a second. But let's talk about the string data type. First of all, strings are more complicated than numbers. The base 10 number system that we're all familiar with is practically universal. Every country uses it with only a few exceptions. And that's not the case with alphabets and punctuation and special characters that some languages employ to give a letter more than one sound. You know, think of the tilde on top of a Spanish N. There's lots of examples of that. As a result, computer operating systems have had to become more accommodating to the character sets used around the world. Our operating system in this video series is Windows 7. It uses the Unicode character set, which has 65,536 characters. If that number sounds familiar, it should. That is a 16-bit maximum capacity figure that we have seen before. Remember, 2 to the 16th? Windows 7 uses 2 bytes to store each character in a string. So 2 bytes, 16 bits. VB6 and VBA also use Unicode. Now, some sources on the web maintain that VBA uses a single byte for each character. Other sources say 2, since that is what Unicode requires. Regardless, the bottom line is that all text characters are reduced to a code number. And in the English characters are mostly between 0 and 127, and that's what you see on your screen here. This table shows the ASCII codes which Unicode employs for each character. This is how strings are stored in memory or on disk. These ASCII codes are translated to binary and stored in the bytes allocated to them. Now, strings use a lot of computer resources, and here's how it works. When you declare a variable as a string, the operating system identifies 10 contiguous bytes in memory for the variable. When your code actually assigns a text value to the variable, those bytes are filled with the characters in the string. If the string is longer than 5 characters, assuming the Unicode standard, a new region of memory is allocated for the variable, this time big enough for the string, and the previous memory location is released and becomes available for other processes. If the variable is reused later and filled with an even bigger string, the process repeats. The operating system allocates an even bigger region of memory, releases the one that is no longer used. All this allocating and deallocating of memory for strings is done behind the scenes for you. And that's fantastic because it's very complex and you don't want to have to worry about it. Unless, of course, your program is handling a large number of strings or some very large individual strings. Then your program may slow down due to the demands on computer resources. But with a small program, you'll hardly even notice. So what if you do have one of these big programs? What do you do? Uh, well, be smart about how you use string data type in your program. As with all variables, think about the data that will go into the variable before you start writing your code. For instance, is it possible to declare a fixed size string variable? If you're storing a single character, or you know, for instance, that your string will always be 6 characters long, well then, yeah, just declare the variable as a fixed length string. Then you will not have any of the thrashing that goes on with reallocating and deallocating memory for your string. Other considerations would be to think about the environment in which your program will be operating. Are there other systems supplying the program its string data? Well, if so, maybe the string operations would be done more efficiently in that other system before data is exported for use in your program. All good things to think about when your programs get bigger and more complex. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about string functions. If you want to learn more about string functions, all you have to do is Google VBA string functions, and there are tons of terrific resources out on the web. I kind of like this one, first on the search screen, Tech on the Net, and it has a lot of the common string functions right here, and all you have to do is click on one of these, and it gives you quite a bit of detail about it. So lots of good resources on the web. So VB6 and VBA have quite a few very good functions built into the language that can help you build up strings, break them into pieces or substrings, or analyze them. So we're going to look at our example now to see a demonstration of these functions. Okay, so here's our Excel spreadsheet, and this program's already written, and we'll show you the programming environment in a second, but let's kind of talk about what's going on here. The program takes a string value in the box on row 4, runs it through a series of functions, and then before we switch to the code editor, you should know that I used once again the technique that I recommend to all of you when working with cells on a worksheet. If you give the cells names, it is much easier to refer to them in code. The cell references don't become invalid when you insert a row or a column. So for instance, the string value that will be subject to all the functions is in this cell, and I've named it string value. And then the results of the functions are going to go into these cells here, here, and you can see that I've given all of them names. So that's going to make it very easy when we get to the code. So why don't we do that? Let's go to the code. So the interactive development environment, here we go. Short program, starts here and ends here. So what am I doing? I'm declaring 4 variables. 3 of them are strings and 1 is an integer. The integer is, I'm going to use that to determine the length of my string, so it has to be an integer data type. I'm positioning the cursor onto sheet 1, so there sheets is the collection of sheets in the workbook, and sheet 1, which is actually a string, you can see it in quotes, so that's another use for strings. And then I'm using the method select. So I'm selecting that sheet from that collection. That puts me on the sheet that we saw a moment ago. Then I'm assigning values to the variables. So string value, which is here, that's going to go into string text, that variable. And then later on, I'm going to be searching for a word in the string, so I'll use that variable for the search, and then I'll be replacing a word in a string, and I'll use that variable for the replacement. And then here's where all the action takes place. So all the different cells that I've named on the worksheet are going to be the places where the results will go. So that's why I'm using the range object name here, and in parentheses I'm identifying which cell on the worksheet I want to go to, so they all have those names. And then let's run down these different functions, and then we'll see how it works. The first function is length, so len. It'll tell me the length of the string. This next one will give me the leftmost characters, and here I'm only asking for 3, so that's what that 3 is for. Same thing here with right. That'll give me the right 3 characters. Mid, as you might have guessed, that gives me the middle characters. And here I want the middle 3, so I use this little mathematical calculation to figure out the middle 3. I take the length of the whole string, divide by 2, that gives me the center point. Then I subtract 1, that kind of puts me a little bit off center, then I take those 3. L case and U case, that gives me lowercase and uppercase, so it'll convert to those cases. In string, this is where I'm actually searching for something, so I'm searching for whatever is in str search value inside my big string. And in this one, replace, so I'm replacing the value I searched for, and I'm replacing it with the new value that's in that variable, string replacement. You can join strings together, and that's what I'm doing on this line. So the ampersand is the symbol for concatenation. So here I'm concatenating 3 variables together, search value, replacement, and search value again. So you'll see that. Here I'm using the date function to put the date value in a cell, and then I'm going to format the date into year, month, day with no slashes. And then finally I'm going to format time, and now is the time function, using this format with hours, minutes, and seconds divided by a colon. So let's run this and see what it gave us. So these were all blank before, but here we go. So length 20, so that's 20 long. The left 3 characters, I space L. The right 3 characters, DE period. Okay, 3 from the middle, RIT. So yeah, that's right in the middle. Switched it all to uppercase. Switched it all to lowercase. I didn't search for anything here, so this ended up not doing anything. So we'll do that in a second. And then finally, here are the dates. So it's kind of nice how you can format the dates. So let's do some searching. So I'm going to search for the word love, and I'm going to make that lowercase. And I'm going to replace it with like. How's that? All right, so let's call that program, and it's called string test. We can run it from this little window. And there you go. So it found love, and it told me that it's in the 3rd position. That's where it begins. And then I did the replacement of like, and so here you go. So it went from I love writing code to I like writing code. So I thought that was pretty cool. Back to the interactive development environment. There's the code that did all that. I encourage you to go to the web and study these string functions. They are extremely useful. You'll need them in almost any program you write. Well, I hope you enjoy this. Please write comments and subscribe to this video series, and I will see you next time. Bye.